If you want to stand out in a crowd, you have to have a little bit of personality. That works in person, and it works in your online presence as well. So how do you bring a little personality to your website? That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, here's the show. Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation for business owners. MTFW is part of the Digital Toolbox, and this is your host, Lorraine Ball. And one of the things that you probably know about me, if you've been a listener for any length of time, is I have a distinct brand personality. And I am who I am, and my company is about that personality as well. But how do you build a brand personality? And what's the difference between your personal and your personality brand? Well, for the answers to that and many more questions, I turn to Danielle Hughes. Danielle helps individuals and organizations write and develop a genuine personality brand, creating content that sounds like you, giving you the space to truly be yourself in your messaging. And she will confess that she can't pull a rabbit out of her hat, but she can hone your brand message, engage your audience, and deadlift you or your employees, but not at the same time. That's just irresponsible. She does mention that she's available for office party tricks and accepts payment in bottles of Bordeaux. I know you're going to love my conversation with Danielle. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I loved how you just presented that. I feel like you read it better than anyone's ever read it before, and it made me smile so much. So thank you for that.
You know what? It made me smile when I read it. And before we go really far, I want to just tell my audience that the link to your website is not a mistake. Danielle's website is morethanwordscopy.com. So we've already bonded over the similarity of our brand names.
So funny. Such a small world, right? I love it.
Absolutely.
But I bet you don't get references to the 1990s Extreme song, or do you?
No.
Do you remember More Than Words by Extreme? It was like more than words.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So many people have been like, oh my God, is your brand after the song? And I was like, no, why would I do that? And they're like, oh, thank God.
Okay, now I'm going to have to change my theme music.
I mean, only if you want to alienate anyone under the age of like 45 who's like, what? What's that?
That music might not be on brand for me. So let's cycle back around and let's really dive into this topic of what is a genuine personality brand?
There's obviously, for years, we've been hearing about everybody needs a personal brand, right? And for a lot of people, and for me included, something personal is private, right? So why am I going to build something public facing around a private aspect of who I am? But your personality is always on display, right? That's who you are. That's what the world sees. That's what makes you you. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's how do you bring more of your personality into your message? So this is where you're drawing that line. You're saying, like, there's things about me that you can obviously see, that I'm willing to share, that I'm super, willing to engage with, that I want people to know about me. But then there's that line of where I don't want to cross into quote unquote personal brand territory. So I help people figure out, and this is brands and individuals, like, what is it about you that is your special sauce, makes you you, and how do we kind of bring that into your message and infuse a little bit of that like whimsy in a way that is going to resonate with your audience?
That is so important because we build websites, and so often the copy that we are given from companies is so flat and so generic that there's really no good reason why anyone would want to hire them versus the 25 other companies that do what they do. And so having a personality is what brings people to you.
100%. I mean, if you are super generic, like you said, you're not distinguishing yourself from anyone else. And no one's really generic. Every company, every person, every organization, there's something about your culture, your values, your beliefs, your methodology. There is something that makes you distinctly you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in business. And the more you can laser in on that, the more you're going to find your people, and the easier it's going to be to create create those connections. And especially nowadays when people are so hungry for humanity and connection, like they are looking for that shared aspect, that shared nugget. Like when I saw your website and when we just talked about the fact that, we're both from New York and, we have a love of art and like those little things, if that wasn't on your website, I wouldn't know. Like now I feel like I already know you in 30 seconds of reading your profile. And that's just something that creates that stronger connection and makes somebody want to work with you.
At the end of the day, and I say this to my clients all the time, people do business with people. Even if it's a large corporation buying from another large corporation, if the buyer doesn't connect with the salesperson on a human level, that project is not going to go very far.
Agreed. It's who you are first, what you do second, right? You have to have the chops to back it up, but people care so much about who you are as a person. Like that about page is single-handedly the most important page on your website.
Let's go to the other side of that. I have a strong personality, and there are things that I am comfortable saying, but how do I make sure I put a message out there, but make sure I don't alienate or detract people who may not necessarily connect with who I am?
So I actually think you want to alienate and detract people. And I don't mean, no, and I don't mean like offend anyone, but I mean, you want to be so you that anyone that comes to you to work with you is going to be comfortable with you, that you're not going to have to pretend to be another way. There's not going to be difficulties. They already know what they're getting into because you have been so clear about who you are, that those people are going to love you and want to recommend you. And you don't need tons of people. You just need a small amount of rabid customers or fans that love you and want to share you with the world. So I think you go the other way, which is lean in more. And again, you're not overly sharing anything uncomfortable, but I think you want to get people you're basically self-vetting. You're basically having people come to your site or whatever and say, this person's not for me. Okay, great. But the people that are for you are going to love you and want to work with you.
The luxuries of owning your own business and being able to, when you get to a certain level of success, being able to be selective and saying, you know what, we're not for everybody. And the job becomes a lot more fun. And so we've certainly worked hard to bring those kind of people in. But as we've played with it, we've certainly kind of worked really hard at the copy. Do you have a tip or a strategy for someone who's looking at rewriting their website to bring more of their personality into the site?
So there's two things. First of all, you can pretend like you're writing your website to a friend, right? So you're instantly going to feel more comfortable, right? Pick your best friend, pick a parent or someone you feel really close to, that if you had to write them something, it would just come off through your tongue or, fly off your keyboard really easily, because you could let your guard down and talk to them like you were talking to them, not to a client. So that's one way to do it, is to just reposition who you think you're talking to. The second thing is, little shameless plug, I have a thing that I created, a downloadable called About Me Mad Libs. And essentially it's a Mad Libs version of your About page. And it lets you fill in, because people don't know where to start, right? That's a lot of the problem with a website, is like, where do I even start? I don't like talking about myself. I don't know what to infuse and where. And so I've kind of lay out a strategy for how you can sort of build your story. And I give you two sort of more traditional prompts and one more fun or whimsical prompt. And it's really amazing to see what people do with that and how it just opens up your eyes and how you can let your guard down a little bit more than maybe you thought you could.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. We're going to have a link to that from the show notes so people can get their copy of the About Me Mad Libs. And I'd love to see people share back to us online some of the results. I'd be really curious.
Oh my God, I would love that so much. I mean, some of the ones that people have created they just make my heart swell. And, it's not meant to be prescriptive. It's meant to just kind of get you out of your box and get you kind of free flowing and in that space where you're just having a good time. And then you can kind of decide how you want to utilize that.
Awesome. Danielle, the time has just flown by.
I know, I'm so sad, but it's okay. It's okay. It's just the beginning.
It is just the beginning. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so glad that we got to bond over our love of more than a few words.
And there will be a link, and I'm going to encourage everyone to drop by morethanwordscopy.com to learn more about Danielle and how you can find your personality brand. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and would like to learn more about other marketing strategies for business owners, be sure to check out the resources in the Digital Toolbox at digitaltoolboxin.com. Look for More Than a Few Words wherever you listen to podcasts. Listen to two, they're short. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.